So May, there's a new set coming out.
There is?
Yeah, and it's got a lot of women in it. Do you know a cube that maybe it might actually support?
The fake cube?
Definitely.
I don't know. It might be the one drop cube. Actually, no, I'm kidding. We're talking about the Femme Cube.
Welcome to Uber Cube, the place we discuss cube curation with purpose and have refreshments. This is your host, Anthony Adams, aka Uber Bear, and today, as always, we are joined by the lovely May. Say hi, May.
Hi, no, it's me, Tom Berry.
Hi, Tom
Don't
Berry.
You see me with my funny little knife?
And hey, it's Stu. And today we're going to be talking about a cube, and this is a cube we can only play this 1 month out of the year.
Yep.
Do you know what month that is?
No.
November.
That was stupid. Did you bring your Buster Sword so we can talk about the Final Fantasy VII list that actually came out? Because that's the only version of Final Fantasy that I know is Final Fantasy and the original, because I never played any of the other ones. So as I'm looking at these cards, I'm like, oh, wow. I actually don't get all these references. I kind of remember it from 13 years old Anthony getting yelled at about turn the Nintendo off. But as I'm seeing these cards, at first, I didn't think I was going to be so interested. There are so many characters who are women in this set that I was just like, I just don't feel like I can ignore this. And I kind of wanted to talk about curation with purpose as you're seeing spoilers in a weird roundabout way. And how you, the listener, when looking at spoilers can go, that fits my aesthetic.
I want to ask both of you a question. And there's been a lot of external IP, Universes Beyond sets that have come out for Magic over the last few years, becoming very, very prevalent and extremely popular, both from a sales and obviously from a financial perspective. I know that obviously Lord of the Rings being an incredibly popular series, both in literature and in movies. I'm going to say something about myself. There is not a single external IP that I care about that has been released as part of a Magic set. I don't care about Lord of the Rings particularly. I like the movies. I may have read the books many years ago, but I'm not emotionally attached to it. I don't care about Final Fantasy. I loved Street Fighter back in the day, but I'm not emotionally attached to anything, right? So for me, when I'm looking at it, I don't know how many people out there, and I'm going to ask this to you guys, how much emotion are you putting into cards that come from Universes Beyond sets related to the IP that they are attached to outside of Magic? May, I want to start with you first.
So, I'm actually probably not the best person to start with this, because in my feelings about Universes Beyond just as a whole tend to be a little bit more, I don't want to say isolationists, but I tend to be more in the boat of I want my Magic cards to be Magic cards. However, I'm not in the boat that I'm going to shame people for enjoying it. I'm not in the boat that I'm trying to discourage people from using any Universes Beyond. I'm not going to sit here and grumble because you wanted to play your Gandalf against somebody's SpongeBob, so on and so forth.
I'm also in that. So I would include myself in that. I like my
emotional investment is they made it clear that product's not for me, so I'm going to wait until there is a product that is. However, there are certain cards that end up being relevant that I do care about, like Display of Power, for example, which flavor-wise can really fit with anything, right? So that's my opinion.
Before we go any further down this conversation,
let's do it.
Let's do the thing that we always do here at UberCube, and let's enjoy our libations of the show. Let's start out with the lovely May. What are you having now? What are you going to one-up us with here?
So this time I'm actually having a sour. So it is from Lua Brewing, and it's Say Yes Sour, which is boysenberry, blackberry, and raspberry. Because I love sour. Sours are actually my favorite kind of a drink. So
I do love a good sour. I am actually going to do a repeat because we are double recording, spoiler alert, and I'm going to have a Sierra Nevada Hazy Little Thing IPA. And how about yourself there, Stuart?
I'm having a Highland Brewing. It's the Daycation IPA. I like these because they're not very strong, and they allow me to sound like less of an idiot when I'm talking about something that I don't really know a whole lot about, which is Cube and Magic.
Well, it's interesting. So I want to kind of double back to what we're talking about these IPs and all that. Again, if you love something, we're not here to even borderline criticize that idea. For me, a lot of this stuff is nostalgia bait. And for a person who played both Final Fantasy 1 and then jumped forward to 7, I played those ad nauseum. I actually beat Chaos in the first one the second time around. Had the maps, had the original NES version, went nuts on it. And then lost an insane amount of hours playing Final Fantasy 7.
I feel like Final Fantasy 7 is like the sort of flagship.
Well, we talked
version.
about.
Oh, definitely.
I gave my reason why those two resonated with me as an individual. One, Final Fantasy, the original one, gave me a little bit more than the game Zelda provided. Like, I liked Zelda, but Zelda felt a little bit like the princess is trapped. You're in the wrong space there, Mario. The princess is in another castle. So you're always kind of moving forward in the game. And I do love the original Zelda. And I'm referring to the original NES version when I played it as a kid. Final Fantasy kind of woke up a lot more of the larger world, a lot more of the, I guess, MP and HP and fighting large monsters. And you had to kind of scale up. And whilst you had to do that in Zelda, for me personally, whenever I opened up this book to find out if my character could beat this particular creature or what type of magic were they weaker to, or fire, if they couldn't handle ice, whatever, had a little bit more depth to it as a game genre. Then fast forward.
You're okay to be wrong.
The first one did. And then fast forward to Final Fantasy VII. For me, it was the cinematography of the game. It actually had cutscenes, and I was really into cutscenes at the time on the original PlayStation, played it while in the Air Force, and it just made me lay there kind of like I was reading a book and turning the pages. And it had the most heartbreaking scene, if you guys haven't read it, where I had a character that I overly invested in, and then... and you have to kind of accept that and lay there and go, oh my God, they really just did that.
Maybe that's one of the early examples of the video game genre moving past the you just click buttons and things happen. There was emotion tied to it. There was an attachment to characters, an extremely deep storyline that the player had agency over, right? And there's other games that have done an incredible job. I would argue even a better job than that. But I feel like that in particular, Final Fantasy VII, was so groundbreaking, and the reason why it's held in such regard even to this day.
And then introduced Final Fantasy VIII, which I was so excited, went out and purchased it. And I don't know, I think I played Final Fantasy VII and spent so many hours in the dark when I should have been doing other things that when that came out, it just didn't have any luster for me. And I've heard people talking about recently, like Usman's mentioned, I love 8. And my little brother currently has my copy of 8 from the original PlayStation just
maybe
sitting there.
Maybe you got to go back to it.
I probably should go back to it.
Maybe you got to go back to it. It's just,
I binged 7 and then I go into 8. It was a lot like the Oblivion versus Skyrim.
You could very well have just been kind of burnt out.
It was burnt out.
If you're trying to play one, intensely emotional, I don't want to do that when I'm watching a movie. I don't want to go from watching something that's, I don't want to go from Schindler's List, which is one of the most thought-provoking and emotional movies of all time.
Weekend at Bernie's.
I wanted to go from that.
I know,
to
right?
Weekend at Bernie's.
You need that.
But I don't want to go from that to Apocalypse Now.
Oh, that actually makes sense.
Or The Deer Hunter. I don't know. Tell me if is that a crazy thought process to you, or just take me off this train of thought.
No, I actually do agree with you. However, I'm going to try to rope us back to our main conversation here. And what's particularly nice about something that being referenced like Final Fantasy, in a lot of the ways that people felt really inspired and connected with Lord of the Rings, there's a lot of people that feel inspired and connected with Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
So I actually have a sort of transition / loop in that question for Anthony, where the way that you feel about a lot of these characters in Final Fantasy and whatnot, are these feelings that you feel are properly represented in within this new set that's coming out?
So it's funny you should ask that.
They reference some of the scenes.
It's fair, but it's nostalgia bait, right? And if I am almost 48 years old, And the nostalgia bait would have gotten me better had they had cards that were represented in 8-bit format and 32-bit format.
Couldn't agree more.
That's
That would have been
my
cute.
that's my hang up, that this is all, and I don't have a problem with like the anime style that they're presenting, but it doesn't resonate with me or bring back the nostalgia for me as a person who played games on a 32 and 64-bit system and an 8-bit system and 16-bit system. I would have liked to have seen some art representative of that.
Follow-up question. In reference to the Femme Cube,
Yes.
do you feel that including Universes Beyond kind of takes away from what you're trying to represent with the Femme Cube, because you're trying to introduce characters from other franchises that you can have connections with? Like, these are still great characters that we are trying to reference here. However, a lot of your Femme Cube identity is about, the women in magic, right? And do you feel like that there's any sort of like conflict before we like actually get into a lot of this topic?
100%. And I'm going to have a list of cards on here, and I'm going to go ahead and spoil it right now. There's really only one I want. There's a maybe two, but I don't find the art overly intriguing. But it's definitely a one for mechanical reasons, and I think the art is tasteful, at least from the curation standpoint that I'm trying to do, because you bring a very valid point. I have to kind of tread lightly with the idea that it's representative of Magic. I can go into other IPs. I'm just going to be very choice for a lot of reasons, both from the aesthetics and the mechanical attributes of the card.
I actually do have one that I particularly feel like was a miss on your part. This card is exceptionally powerful, not only in the message of Final Fantasy's identity, but also in the essence of Magic's identity, and it is very loosey-goosey in it. And I feel like that it actually matches a lot of the theming and tone that we should be representing here. And it's you are not alone. It is 1 white for an instant. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. If you control 3 or more creatures, it gets +4/+4. It is not an exciting card. Let me just get that out of the way, right? This is not an exciting card. There's not like a lot of mechanical depth here. However, what this includes and what this says is kind of a powerful message, and I feel like that when we're going into this artistic vision of your cube, I feel like that this is a card that really represents like that feeling that we're trying to elicit with your cube, right? And I feel like that it was an entire miss when I was looking over a lot of your notes and being like, where is You're Not Alone?
I don't remember if that art... I can't see the art in front of me right now, but how many women did it have in it? That was my challenge.
2.
Okay, I must have overlooked that one because I would have caught that. Because as I swept through, I'm looking at Mythic Spoiler, and as I'm going through, I'm building out this list of considerations. So, yeah, that one's really powerful. I know that we actually talked about that card just last night for our good friend David's Mono White Cube, and he thought that card was spectacular as well, too. Because it's kind of a interesting giant growth type of effect, combat trick. So I'm not opposed to that idea at all, and I can actually see the messaging there, too. If we're really...
It's good for a lot of fronts for what the Femme Cube's trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, I can make this the longest episode ever reading all these cards that I have on this list. Aside from You Are Not Alone, which I'll now add to the list, there's only really one other card. As much as I try to push it, I'll read these others. How do you want to approach this? Do you want me to the spoilers? Or
I actually have a comment about that.
It's huge.
About
right
You Are Not Alone. No, about You Are Not Alone, specifically. Because I think... Anthony, you have really been so incredibly careful with the artistic message and the representation of the characters that, and I'm going to ask this as a question, and this is not a judgment at all, right? Which I do not do. But do sometimes maybe other aspects of the Magic cards, do you tend to look away from them and solely, or maybe just majorly focus on the art, and maybe this was just an instance where the title of the card was not something that maybe registered okay.
The flavor's also great.
Yeah,
let me make that clear. Like the flavor text here, you've always protected us, but you will still don't understand that we've looked out for you too.
Because I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't have caught that. I will hold my hands up and be like, given because I know how my brain works, and I know that if I was invested in a project like this, I'm not a very good kind of read between the lines, and you're better than I am with that, and obviously May
Not me
vastly
at all.
superior.
No.
I am a dumbass. We don't normally use.
I'm a Duma.
I am not
Dumas.
smart enough or intelligent enough to be able to, you say it, and immediately all the cogs in my brain start turning, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that fits on so many levels. I don't think I am mature enough, even at 45 years of age, or have the wherewithal to be like, look how powerful a message that brings, and I need someone like you to be able to point that out.
I will offer a challenge. The message is embedded in the cube. We've worked hard as a group to flesh this out to make sure this cube is ready for where it's going to be presented, CubeCon 2025 again. And thank you again for Birds of Paradise for selecting it, right? And there are so many cards in there that have been curated with that ideal in mind. But however, simultaneously, and this is it's an however that maybe, I don't know the words to put this in, so feel free to check me as I say it. I've been careful to make sure that the card choices matter, but at the same time, I have to ensure that the gameplay is also equally as fun. Because the environment is a message and fun together. It's not, I didn't build this just to put it in Cube Cobra to say, hey, look at my Monet. Right? And Monet's beautiful, and I do love everything about it, right? But what I mean is also this is something that we must play with. And I have to balance that equation of the fun factor with the mechanical attributes of the cube and the messaging of the cube. So as I built this random sheet, and you guys are welcome to look at the show notes, I just started plastering cards up here for consideration. Meanwhile, I didn't see that card you spoke to. There's only one card that resonated to me, and because it was a callback to the Final Fantasy world in which I did play. That nostalgia bait did get me. Not that I know this card. Not that I have an idea who this character is. I have no idea. I know what blue magic is because I played the game. And then it has a beautiful piece of art that is within that spectrum where I'm looking at. It's not quite anime, and it's respectful, and it's powerful. And mechanical attributes of this card. And I don't think I can pronounce this if I want to, but I'm going to try. I'm going to try this. It's going to be terrible. I think this says Quistis Trep? Quistis Trep? Quistis Trep.
I think Quistis or Kistis.
Quistis Trape?
But I think Quistis Trape. Trape.
Yeah, that sounds good. I don't know who this character is. So but let's pause for a minute there. Back to the point that May said, well, do you have characters that resonate within the Magic universe? The answer is no. So now I am leaning back towards the mechanical attributes of the card. So let me explain. So one of the things that I've been trying to do as I've been building and curating this cube is try to find cards that are on par with Magic playables that people are used to. In this case, I'm going to say Snapcaster Mage. And I'll explain this card in a minute. And so Questus Trape, which I think we pronounced wrong, for 2 colorless and 1 blue, you get a 2/2. Legendary creature, human wizard. Blue magic, which I am aware of because I played the games. When that person enters the battlefield, you may cast target instant or sorcery from a graveyard, and mana of any type can be spent to cast a spell. If that spell would be put into a graveyard, exile it instead. With this particular card, it's funny how you think you want something, and then you realize that maybe there was something that was more nostalgic, more fits me as a person. Because part of this cube, whilst I'm definitely trying to project to the community my feelings and my journey and trying to learn, at the same time, there's things that Anthony, the person, would like to see, right? And May and I were kind of talking about a little bit before. I thought I wanted a Snapcaster. I always thought I wanted a Snapcaster. Why can't you print Wizards? Why can't you print a Snapcaster as a woman? Like, that would have made me happy. And maybe it would. I don't know. But something about this card and the fact that I can incorporate it into my game building philosophy, my design philosophy, and then also support my Blink package, which is the mechanical attributes that I was referring to as a curator. And this is my point of this episode, is the curation with intent. This isn't about like whilst this is about the Femme Cube, and this is about Final Fantasy VII, this is about you, the listener, like making choices on, I guess, multi-tier choices, right? There's a lot of things to think about. And when I do something like this, there's always going to be a challenge point. But this art is beautifully rendered, respectful, Snapcaster at home, for lack of better words, and mechanically plays in one. I think, actually, I know confidently this will be a fun Magic card.
I agree 100%, and I am putting this card in the Diablo cube. The art is this, well, it's a wizard, first of all, and Diablo, sorceress, right? And it's got kind of this icy blast, cold mage, ice mage vibe about it. And the ability is super fun. And it's a 2/2 for 3. I love cards like this where you've got a great choice, right? Do you play it early? Do you need to play it early? Do you want to play your instants and sorcery maybe earlier than you possibly would like because you can recast it again from the graveyard, but now you've got to pay 3 extra to get the creature down so you can do so. Amazing.
So we kind of jumped ahead. Like, I had this whole list of cards, but so Stu and I are really good at like breaking this card down from the mechanical attributes and how it shall play. But before we move forward, and there is an important point here, the whole point of this cube is perspective. And in your opinion, and in the case of Emma, my mom, my sister, my wife, because I'm going to ask my wife, actually, I'm going to show it to her, but I'm going to ask you, before I proceed, because you said it wasn't magic, it's magic adjacent, but it's not, but it means something to me. Where do you land? It's a perspective thing. Before I even move forward, it matters to me more than anything else. Ultimately, I'm just going to say this flat out. You say this card doesn't belong here, I'm just going to go ahead and trust you. We won't do it. That's it.
So I think that there are times where it is okay to kind of break out of like your vision. Like we've mentioned it before of, hey, it's okay to break the rules for the sake of play experience, right? And this isn't so far of a break that it like suspends our disbelief. It completely shatters the whole point of this cube. The whole reason that I asked you the way that I did was to kind of get you to like verbalize and confirm like what your vision is here. Like out loud for yourself, not for the sake of the recording, not for the sake of like trying to appease our fictional audience, so to speak, right? The whole 12 of us type thing, right?
Dozens.
But the reason that I specifically was tailoring it was because it was kind of adding that perspective, like you're trying to prompt off of me, of the why we are doing this, right? Why we are trying to make the choices we are to match our vision. And this is just like a cube curation type thing, as I don't want to quite say an artistic medium, but as a way of self-expression, right?
I agree.
And a big part of this is I think that if it is good enough for the functionality of your cube, it fits within the restraints, I think that it's fine to give yourself a little bit of leeway and throw in character from a different franchise. I think that's fine.
Which is a good segue. I'm going to have a lot of other cards in this list. I actually added them with intent. I've kind of already said the one card that I'm definitely adding. There's a whole bunch more on here. I only put them on here so that you could reference them. But I'm going to skip ahead because I'm just not really vibing with a lot of these cards for different reasons. I do have one, however, actually two, that have caught my attention. Oh, well, nope, we're going to go three. We're going to go three. There are 3 cards that have caught my attention because I think the art is stunning and they're beautiful. And so I'm going to read a couple of them here for you, okay? And I want your honest opinions. So the first one that I'm going to read in the vein of the curation that I'm trying to be respectful, I'm trying to demonstrate, the mechanical attributes, but also the message that I'm trying to convey here, right? The Femme Cube has always been this interesting, delicate dance, this learning journey that Anthony has learned with all of our friends kind of giving feedback, right? So removing a lot of these cards from this list, white aura sight, 2 colorless, and white, you get an artifact. When this artifact enters, exile target non-land permanent opponent controls until this artifact leaves the battlefield. Tap, add 1 white mana. This art is beautiful. And it doesn't, back to what you were saying, it doesn't feel disjointed from Magic. It actually looks a lot like a Magic card, where some of these feel like a different universe, literally. This feels in the same vein. Do you agree with that, Stu?
I agree. I like this card very much. I think it's an easily interactable, it's an interactive piece. And the fact that it's a mana rock with these, like, with that kind of ability tacked onto it, it's you could argue it's a little bit goofy in a way, but I definitely like the fact that we've got this rampy piece for white that has it has a very strong ability with it, right? But I also think it's great for the cube.
And so as we do this,
I like flavor.
Yeah.
The flavor
Love the
text is real
flavor.
good. She gave her life, so that way we may defeat the Assacians. Sorry, I don't play enough Final Fantasy to know, but the second sentence is her sacrifice must not be in vain, and I think that's beautiful.
Yeah,
I don't need to understand a lot about Final Fantasy to understand that this is a beautiful card.
No, this card
Right?
actually spoke to me. As I drop all these in this list, and whenever you guys look at it and you see this list, you'll see a lot of cards here. To me, it was a lot of noise. I kind of wanted to put it there, and it's not calling my name. But this card's calling my name. This next one is actually calling my name too, and I'll give a mechanical reason, but I'm also going to offer the kind of the softness, the beauty of the card. The art's just elegant.
Sensational.
You want to read that one for me? It's beautiful.
I'm hoping you. Thank you. Okay, good.
It's gorgeous.
It is. So this one is Lulu, Stern Guardian. This is 2 colorless and 1 blue for a legendary creature, human wizard. 2/3. Whenever an opponent attacks you, choose target creature attacking you, put a stun counter on that creature, and then it has pay 3 colorless and a blue for proliferate. Incredibly, I think, just elegant design, lovely sort of combination of abilities, right? Mm-hmm. Stun plus the proliferate is just absolute gravy. And like you said, the art, it's got this, wonderful image with the watery kind of background and like big lily pads and the long hair, and it doesn't
wonderful. Feel Magic disjointed for me. That's kind of back to what you said, May.
Seems to be a theme, right? That we're all kind of in this same boat of love the cards that feel even. I don't care that this is a Final Fantasy creature. I don't care, or a Final Fantasy character. I don't care that any of these names exist within another IP. I don't want Magic to be overtaken. And I know that there's people out there that are like, hey, I don't mind that I'm playing your Spider-Man versus my SpongeBob SquarePants. That ain't my jam. It's really not. But this is my jam. The fact that it's got a name that's associated with another IP, I don't care about that. The elegance and the beauty of the card, to me, is what makes it so special.
So, to add on to a lot of what you were mentioning, is that I feel like that it's a burnout that a lot of players are feeling right now when it comes to Magic Universes Beyond. And this is the statement that I'm going to be making is not me trying to grift and trying to sell you of, oh, these are great, y'all are just wrong type thing. However, and some of you may consider this a spicy take, this is still the take that I'm going to lean on. The thing that is really important about what keeps a Magic card, it's not the art, it's not the border, it's not the functionality of the card. What it is that there is a certain amount of believability within the said universe translated into a Magic card. And the way that we are able to translate things, for example, if we go back to White Auracite, for example, right? Where the art of this card, if you were to throw this into any other Magic set, I don't think anybody would bat an eye, right? There's nothing unbelievable about this, like artistically. We look at the flavor text. Sure, it's referencing something in Final Fantasy, which people who get it, and people who don't. But how there's a lot of people that don't get a lot of Magic lore, right? For the most part, it's a thing that gets brushed over, right? It is believable enough, right? Then you get into the functionality of the card, where as if way that this functions is just like, okay, this is like a good, strong card, but it's not like oppressively so. What makes a Magic card is what ties it all together, and there's a sort of heart to it. Something like Lulu that is very beautiful is that even though we are referencing a franchise that is not Magic, right? What makes it feel Magic adjacent is that it feels like it's a collaboration between an artist who brings in the art, the person who's designing the mechanical part of the card, and the person who is bringing together the flavor of the card while also tying it into what makes it feel like an actual Magic card. And it's not that I'm saying that like Lulu's the exception, all the rest of these cards are whack type thing, right? It is that I am saying that when we look at cards like Wide Aura Sight, like Lulu, like You're Not Alone, it is a collaboration between effectively multiple arts coming together and making a Magic card. That is the heart of Magic. That is the heart of what makes a Magic card. When we look at some of the more egregious examples of like Universes Beyond cards, what really separates them from being that kind of heart of Magic feeling, like say SpongeBob, for example, right? Sure, it's the funny reference to a character that we can like recognize. It's an iconic figure, but this isn't bringing together multiple pieces of artwork, flavor text, and trying to put things in the context of Magic, right? What makes a Magic card is when something is evocative, when something is promoting interesting gameplay, when something is promoting interesting like flavor text. Like sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's direct, sometimes it's thought-provoking. And what's nice about a franchise like Final Fantasy, and specifically like this case, is that a lot of these cards feel very Magic. But that's just my opinion.
Well, no, it's a fair opinion, actually.
That might be the greatest 60 seconds or 90 seconds of our podcast ever. Yeah. I'm going to put that out there. That, to me, was absolutely beyond beautiful, of not even just discussing Anthony's Femme Cube, but just discussing philosophy, and I think something that has been lost with the attitudes of how people are viewing these Magic cards, when it's all about power, 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 and synergy, 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 and how it works with this and how it works with that. What about Magic? Well, and I love that you said it.
Well, I want to offer an antithesis, an actual example, right? Sure. And I want to open this up to checking me the whole time, and this is including the audience, because I'm sure I'm going to get hate mail from someone from somewhere about what I say next. But I'm going to talk about this next card that does not meet my curation requirements from what both I've learned, but also what's really funny is it actually checks all the mechanical attributes. So whilst you think as a listener that Anthony's leaning in towards, well, this card just plays really good, it'll just make a really fun environment and Magic will play well, I am 100% considering the best I can from the perspective that I have been both offered and can echo what this card might represent for someone. So I'm going to say some stuff that, I'm willing to take the mail. But this next card that I want to talk about, and I want both of you to check me, and then the audience can write me all the messages they want to write, but I'm going to say something. It's Conformer Shuriken. I think I pronounced that right. From a mechanical standpoint, this card is going to be like, oh, this would be awesome in the Femme Cube. The art was a total fail for me. Do you see this card before I proceed, May? And I'll explain why in a minute. I'm going to read it out loud to the audience.
Gotcha.
So, Conformer Shuriken for 2 colorless. You get legendary artifact equipment.
It's because you're mispronouncing Shuriken.
Is it Shuriken?
Shuriken.
Shuriken? Like Haruken.
Like Shuriken.
Okay, I can't do that. But I'm trying. So, equipped creature has, whenever this creature attacks, tapped target creature defending player controls. If that creature has greater power than this creature, put a number of 1/1 counters on this creature equal to the difference equipped to. So, a little bit of kind of, I guess, backstory. In this cube, I have struggled to have equipment. I've wanted equipment that would enter this environment that would both be respectful and, I guess send the message, including mana rocks, right? Anything that, like, I'm looking for something that actually values what I'm trying to do with this cube. So on paper, this card is amazing. And then I look at the art and I see a Lara Croft, basically, that looks like a waifu card. And I'm going to say that just doesn't appeal to me or resonate to me, or I'm not understanding the message. But I don't find this art style appealing in any way. Like, I don't find that attractive. I don't find that, and not attractive in a sense of like that, but I mean, I don't find that doesn't give me comfort. Like, I'm uncomfortable. If I put this card in my cube and I said, this card's in here, I would feel uncomfortable presenting that amongst a bunch of women. Now, women may have some pushback, and I'm welcome to that, but I am not comfortable with presenting
No, I
this card.
actually agree with you.
Is there another card, right? And this is why I always tell people to look at the show notes, because I feel like this is important. And the cards that we're referring to in the show notes are kind of halfway down. Are there other card or cards within this block, including Conformer Shuriken, that you are uncomfortable putting in because of the art, even if the game experience would be improved by having them?
Yes, there's quite a few of them. I can actually, something about it just doesn't sit right with me, and it's my personal reasons. I can't, because I do bring that challenge point.
Give me an example. Let's hit. Which ones?
I'll try one. It's Sage's Nulliths.
Nulliths. Okay.
Nulliths. That one's kind of pretty, but that one's actually more because it's disjointed from the Magic universe in my mind. That one doesn't really match the aesthetic of Magic, not so much of the cube. And then if I go a little bit further down, I feel like an offer you can't refuse is kind of tilting a little bit to me. I don't know. Like, my feelings when I'm kind of looking at these cards are kind of hard to parse. And that's why I'm always looking for perspective to make sure, because I'm walking a dangerous walk, and I do realize that, right, May? I mean, we've talked about this before, and that's why I'm always looking for the viewpoints of. That's why we had you and Emma kind of roast me, for lack of better terms, because I needed that perspective, and we'll continue to do that as I grow. But anything that kind of tilts into that Japanese kind of anime is questionable for me, and the listeners might not like that, but sometimes I don't care. That's for Anthony, right? Do you disagree, May?
So, it's because there's a stylistic part to it, right? A lot of, and this is an opinion that I've heard a lot, and it has to do with the fact of a lot of the art that feels a lot more on the anime end tends to be a little bit more waifu baity, for lack of a better term, right? And it is not that I'm sitting here like pointing the finger being like, oh, how dare you enjoy your anime art? Like, I literally have Anime Dragon Mage. I'm still looking for Anime Laughless, right? Like, we all have our things that we enjoy, right? But there comes a point in which you're trying to represent yourself kind of with your cards, because that's the big part about Magic, is that it's a social game. As much as we want to optimize and we want to like focus on powerful cards and whatnot, this is a social game. There is an aspect to it, whether you like it or not, that you are representing yourself with the deck that you are building, right? Well, and when somebody sits down being like, yes, here is my pile of anime waifu proxies, I'm gonna be a bit squeamish. I'm gonna be a bit uncomfortable. And it's not that Magic has already like gone into that. It's that there's that kind of line that they're tap dancing with like actual Magic cards that is reasonably uncomfortable.
That's the dance.
So I don't disagree with you.
I'm the curator, right? And the dance is, there's sexuality involved in a certain amount of art figures, right? And there's the potential, like, the projection of that idea. It depends, I guess, sometimes the source matters, right? And that's the dangerous game when you do this, is you can be celebratory of that idea, or you can be on the other spectrum, right? And that's always kind of the tilt here. And I always have to be mindful of that. And it's not that I'm choosing the safe vein. I'm choosing, if it makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, then I have to wonder how my wife might react if she was to see that. Is that I'm doing my best to try to see it through another lens.
I'll take it another step further. How much do you trust the people who make the decisions at Wizards of the Coast to use art that is appropriate for Magic?
And I
Right?
don't. I don't, because there's examples.
I don't.
There's some pretty egregious examples of art that I look at throughout the history of Magic, and I think, how on earth did this get through whatever kind of QA or review process? Like, there's no way that this is appropriate for a game that realistically could be and is played by young people or, whoever. And I don't always want to be like, think of the children. But I always think of, there has to be a gauge somewhere, right? There has to be a metric for how you want to utilize certain styles of art.
And it's not about like kink shaming or any of these kind of sexuality things or any of that, right? It's about the projection and this. I guess I have to think about like
It's about what do you want your game and your product to represent?
Right. That's where it's the dangerous game, right, that we walk. And I have to be considerate of that whilst doing this. So I do choose what I see, and I ask the opinions of others what is respectful. Because there will be children, there will be women playing this, and I can't see everything through other people's lens. I don't walk their walk. And that's why I'm always asking. And I feel like as an individual, May, that I have learned. I've learned trial by fire in a lot of reasons. I've become more aware of how other people might see things. And while I do appreciate the art and the art forms, I still have to, make choices that I think hold up true to what I'm trying to do as an individual.
Yeah. And specifically in the case of Confirm or Shuriken, like, if I were to take that art in isolation and put it on any other Magic card, like, I'm pretty sure we've already had another Shuriken card at this point, right? If I were to put this on any other Magic card, it would feel extremely out of place. Just because we put Final Fantasy on it doesn't mean that suddenly it's, like, the exception. No, like, this is definitely an odd thing to point out. And I don't feel like that you're wrong for feeling that, because when I look at that art, I'm just kind of like, okay. I will keep this tangent relatively short, because just for the sake of time, right? There are a lot of reasons that I left Yu-Gi-Oh! Right? Like, as a card game. For those of you who don't know, I came from Yu-Gi-Oh! I spent a majority of my time playing Yu-Gi-Oh! However, Yu-Gi-Oh! Started going down this kind of path where it's just like, we stopped it from being kind of monsters and we started it being waifu bait. And let me tell you, it gets really, really uncomfortable when you start having a lot of these basically women with like their feet out, with their cleavage out, whatnot, and being like, yes, don't you feel represented? No, I don't. No, I really don't. Right? And it's not that I'm saying that magic's already there. However, it is a worry. It is a concern. And people already do it with their proxies. And when I see Wizards kind of tap dancing that line in order to appease it, it makes me a little nervous. And Shuriken, this Shuriken card really makes me nervous because of that. But again, that just might be a me thing, right? It's a perspective thing.
I don't think it's a you thing.
I don't think
I don't
it's a you
feel
thing
like you're
either.
wrong
No.
for feeling
No,
the way
I don't
that
think
you
it
do.
is,
If
because
we made
I've
this much
seen
conversation out of it, it's not a you thing. by the
No,
way.
I've seen this come up on social media where, and this is not a, it's not a gender thing where someone, it could be male, female, non-binary, whatever, where they've said, I sat down to play a game of Magic. Could have been Commander, could be whatever. And I'm sitting across from someone and they have a full proxy, let's just call it Commander deck, right? Just because it's a common format. And literally every single card in their deck is a proxy that contains waifu characters. Again, it's just cleavage everywhere and incredibly inappropriate art to pull out in a public setting like that. Right now, that might be extreme. We're not saying that Wizards of the Coast is doing that, but we still have to, at least from my opinion, when you're taking, and I'll go back to, Magic is not a game. It's a product, and we are, at least the people that are the cube curators, are the ones that are creating the games and the environment out of the product. It is the responsibility that you are taking on to ensure that you are creating an environment that is comfortable for anybody who will or could come into contact with this environment. And that includes everything. It could include your custom sleeves, your proxies, your real Magic cards, anything.
It's all about intent.
It is about intent.
It's intent.
But here's the problem now, right? I'm looking at the art. Am I looking at the art primarily?
I see Laura
Are there
Croft.
people out there who are even paying as much attention to the art as you are with the Femme Cube, or are they just pulling out and looking at the text box and looking at the CMC and thinking, okay, that fits, and I'm not looking at anything else?
Right. Like, I'm not trying to shame people for, like, enjoying the anime art. I don't feel like that there's been particular anime art that's like in particular cases that I can point to and be like, this is egregious. However, there is a big tonal shift between like Conformer Shuriken and like Rosa Resolute White Mage in the same set, right? When you look at Rosa, that's a beautiful artistic
That was going to be the next piece. It's a piece that's beautiful.
It is a beautiful artistic
It's rendered,
piece.
it's painted, it's taken with care.
I don't feel uncomfortable with that at all.
And she's powerful.
Like, her legs are outright showing.
And she's showing
hips
body,
all the
but
way
it's
down to her
powerful.
knees.
Yes, it's
But
powerful.
it's not sexual at any case.
I think that's the difference, right? And
right.
It's how we perceive it. So I have to make you mentioned Rosa the Resolute White Mage. This is on my list of respectable cards that are powerful. It's not Bikini Girl, as you guys mentioned with you and Emma.
Yes.
It doesn't feel Bikini Girl. This feels it again, I'm willing to take the audience, I guess.
The focus is not on her or on her, like, let's say, missing pieces of clothing or so.
It feels powerful.
Quote unquote.
The piece is powerful. Right. Whereas the Conformer Shuriken doesn't feel, it feels, these two embody two different representations for me.
If you were to show me this art and say that it was from the Naruto card game, I would believe you.
Correct. That's what I'm trying to say to you. And Stu made a valid point. Like, we can't homogenize this stuff for all audiences. That's troublesome. That's problematic for a lot of reasons, and we understand that. But as a curator, we have to make like definitive choices, and I have chosen a very difficult task. I am a cis white male taking on the idea of representing the
redhead,
no less. A ginger. I mean, I'm the troubles are there. And I am trying my best to make something beautiful. And I'm trying to make a piece of art that's representative of something I consider beautiful, strong, powerful. And that's why it almost, I'm going to get a little teary, when people like CubeCon and Birds of Paradise select me, it means a lot to me as a person. Because I've tried hard to be different. I mean, I've put myself out there. And I'll take all the pushback and all the hits, but this is Anthony.
Well, look, anybody reasonable,
you're willing to grow.
Yeah, I was going to say, anybody who knows you knows that knows your intention, right, and knows what you're trying to represent. The challenge, again, and I will keep coming back to this, is if you, Anthony, and for anybody who doesn't know Anthony, and there's probably a lot of people who listen to the podcast who don't know Anthony personally, Anthony is a very good artist, right? It's a good talent you have. I would love to. I'm not artistic in any way, shape, or form. I could imagine that if Anthony, the artist, could not only create or not only choose sort of the the thematics and the abilities and all that, Anthony, with some practice, if I gave you a winning lottery ticket, you could probably eventually come up with some pretty damn good art for your cube.
Yeah.
Right. So
I think
exactly right. But you don't get to do that. You don't get to do that. You have to work within the confines of this product.
I paint with the palette provided.
Exactly. You're not even painting with a palette. You're painting with stickers.
Yeah, true. So, heavy. We wanted to end on that. It matters. But I kind of wanted to bring this to the attention. Like, curation can have a lot of depth to it, a lot of choice. And you have mechanical and you have thematic attributes, right? And you have the feelings that you might project out into the universe, right? Your players, there's a lot to consider here as a person. And sometimes, some people are going to take the easier. I've taken a hard road, but by choice. And I wanted to do that. And I appreciate people like May, Emma, my sister tells me, my mom, my wife, they all reference this. And I go, hey, how does this make you feel? Because I don't necessarily understand it, right? What was the card you talked about in the beginning? You literally referenced something that both Stu and I overlooked. And that's you're not alone.
You are not alone.
And that's how we're going to close this out. Because that really puts in perspective what we're trying to say here. You're not alone. But we're always learning as people. Right?
Yes.
And Stu?
You Are Not Alone is not just a Michael Jackson song.
Take us to the socials.
Can I not even talk about Ultimecia?
No.
Temporal threat.
It's too beautiful now. You can't.
All right. again, to all of our Patreons, to Patrick, to Jeff, to Nick, to Chris, to Timber Dragon, to Brian, to Keaton Schultz, Lord Justice, Nick LaPointe, Preston, and Samuel McKenna, a big, huge thank you and shout out to all of our Patreons for all of the ongoing support, for helping keep the lights on, and just for all the love that you've shown our podcast over the years. It's always a pleasure to bring you guys content. And again, thank you so much for all of the support. You can use our TCG affiliate link in the show notes if you're going and ordering your power, your Black Lotuses for your cube, whatever the case may be. Get in on the conversation at facebook.com/groups/mtgcube. Well over 1,000 members. Anthony's over there always talking about his cubes and giving advice.
1,100, baby.
1,100. You want to do a pick one, pack one? You want to talk about a particular choice of a card?
Want to find an event? Want to start an event?
Absolutely.
That's what we do.
Get yourself out there. You can also use our inkedgaming.com/ubercube affiliate link for your placemats, dice bags, mouse pads, all kind of custom and large volume products available. If you want to hit us up at the socials, you can find us at Bluesky at ubercubemtgpodcast.bsky.social or at Twitter, ubercubemtgpod. You can reach us via email if you've got a longer question or comment about the podcast, an episode, or anything you want to talk about. We're at ubercubemtgpodcast@gmail.com. As always, come hang out with us on the Discord. A lot of cool conversation going on there as usual. I want to see those deck boasts. All right. That's been popping.
It has.
A lot of really amazing.
Nobody's got the Ricky. Christian don't let us sign it.
I know. I'm sad about that.
He just brings it out when he wins.
Swim team is interrupting my Thursday night magic.
They are.
I'm not happy. I need a Ricky pretty soon.
I'll let you win one tonight whenever we play the draft. All right. We'll play it for a few minutes.
We're definitely
just
not
one
gonna
draft.
Play. No, probably not.
Come on, just do it.
And if you go hang out on YouTube if you want to go and watch or listen to something on YouTube for the podcast, Ubercube MTG Podcast 747. And again, a big thanks to all of our patrons, patreon.com/Ubercube. Thank you to you all for the support.
And other than that, we're going to say the thing that we always say here at Ubercube is Happy Cubing.